Now, this is really about the madness of going anywhere with the alcoholic in your family. And I've talked about going out to dinner with my wife in the past, and it ends up just, you end up just watching them drink. They don't really eat their dinner, or going traveling and problems that you have in the airport, just trying to get through the airport, and they circle back and disappear, all these types of things. I can remember the last time I took my wife to New York, and my mother had died in 2015, and my dad had remarried, and we were actually staying at my dad's second wife's house. He was 83 when he got married the second time, by the way. God bless him. But it was weird because we were staying at their house, and for whatever reason, I don't know where Amanda got alcohol, but she was inebriated at a particular family event, and a lot of my dad's new wife, their family was coming over. Her daughter lived across the street, and it was kind of a Fourth of July get together. And I remember us all sitting around, and Amanda was just on the couch, just kind of, obviously intoxicated, and none of us knew where she had gotten it because she'd kind of been at the house all day. Maybe, we really never knew, unless she just raided it from either got a DoorDash to come to their house when we were out earlier. We will never know. But unfortunately, it was very embarrassing because you're around people you're not normally around. I was meeting my dad's wife and all their family, and here's my wife who was intoxicated. And unfortunately, at one point, she got up and actually fell over on top of the coffee table, smashing, my dad's new wife's coffee table. We got her up and she fell over again, knocked the couch back against the wall, and put a big hole in the wall. I mean, she was just all over the place. And my dad was just like, "Oh my God," and everybody was just kind of looking at each other. And I just ended up taking Amanda and just walking her upstairs. And I said, you just got to stay up here, because if you come down here again, we're just going to have to leave again, like we always do. And the reason why I tell this story, or any story, again, it's never to disparage the alcoholic or Amanda itself. This is because I know a lot of people relate to these stories. They've had alcoholics in their life, and you're really stuck in certain situations when you have to take them. A lot of people would say, well, why did you take her with you? Why didn't you just leave her at home? And unfortunately, what a lot of people don't realize is that would have probably been worse. Because there was a situation where my son and I had left her at home for 5 days, and she almost drank herself to death, and she was under house arrest at the time. I mean, she had the tendency to turn on the oven and walk away. She was going to cook something, and then she'd pass out and forget about it. I mean, it was pretty rough the last few years. And a lot of people, again, would say, well, why did you stay? And so much of it is self-preservation. And I talk about these because so many families have to go through this exact same thing. You're juggling between, managing this insanity that you have to deal with, and managing your own life, and you keep, not making this a priority. And you can't, because you got to have your own life as well, even outside the alcoholism. So back at the incident with my wife and my dad and his second wife's house, again, I really wasn't able to spend a lot of time with my dad. And this was actually ended up being the last time I did see him. And we had to go to Lake George, and if you've followed those stories, what happened there, and essentially, I'd fly to New York with my wife, and then I'd be asked to, go elsewhere on your vacation because of my wife, and it's humiliating, it's embarrassing, and it's really a nightmare to have to go through for Amanda as well, because she's caught in this, this disease, this horrible, horrible disease. And, as many times in as many places that she went to try and get help, she succumbed in the end. In the interim, as a family member, it's brutal to have to go through. And unless you've been through it and experienced it, it's really difficult to you really have a concept of what you're dealing with. And a lot of times I tell these stories kind of matter-of-factly, because that's really what they become. They become a day in the life of the alcoholic, and it's like this almost every day of your life. And you have to realize, well, why did you stay with that person? And again, I have a file top of my page, why I stayed with Amanda. A lot of it had to do with, she was my wife. I was married to her. I was in the middle of a separation when she did pass away at the end, and I was in the process of walking away from it. But I needed to get her in a place where she had at least a fighting chance to get her back to get herself back to sobriety. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case with her. And I tell these stories because I know it resonates with families, people who are in recovery. It's also a reminder to them to stay in recovery, because you don't ever want to have to go back to this world of madness. Alcoholics who are active, they should realize that they're not only affecting themselves, and if they have the attitude, well, I'm only affecting myself, well, you couldn't be any more wrong. You're affecting everybody that you love, everybody that you once loved, everybody that you've ever had a relationship with. It affects them in a very negative and hostile way. Understanding that is really the whole point of this page. And again, these stories and so much more are in her memoir. It's called Amanda, A Cautionary Tale of Alcoholism. Again, it's on Amazon. It's also on in my link tree. You can go right to my website. In my bio, right on this page. And again, I go live Monday through Friday, right around 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We have the Facebook group. It's called There's an Alcoholic in the Family. Again, link is in the link tree. And when you're ready to work with me one-on-one, I have a complete coaching program. It's designed to help the family and the alcoholic. If you set up an appointment, it's a Zoom call. It takes about 45 minutes. We do a deep dive into what's going on with you and your family. The call is free, but the course is definitely not. And the whole point of the Zoom call is to make sure you're a good fit for the program, for the alcoholic, and I'd like to bring in family members. It's all designed so that we can get this malady out of our life forever. And again, thanks so much for listening.